which means the Democrats across the country will get into a big quarrel.
Sheldon Whitehouse is 69, pushing 70 years old. I long for the days of Paul Wellstone. Talk about a lion. No, we have Sheldon Whitehouse. Now, I couldn't care less what the Democrats do at this point. I'm not a Democrat, so I mean, if you think that partisanship is still the way to go right now, you do you. But as we know from resistance history, it ain't taking you anywhere. But his broader point, when he gets to it, is that, and this is how you know that there is no opposition in these people. They don't have it in them. They don't recognize it. They don't see it. That with his full chest, he says that if only one Republican would have done the right thing and voted a different way, then in a bipartisan way, the Senate and House could have gone back to regular order. If only, and within just the entire framework of partisanship. Now, keep in mind, my first career was within Democratic Party politics as a press secretary and communications director and speechwriter in Washington, in national politics. So I know how these people think. And he's thinking entirely in terms of partisanship. We're the Democrats. The Democrats are the only thing that matters. If there's a problem, put it on the Republicans. And so what in the cowardice of all of this is, in a moment in which we actually need leadership, where we need people like AOC and we need people like Bernie Sanders and Jasmine Crockett, we have guys like this who are saying, no, we need one Republican to change to return us to regular order. Does anybody think regular order is possible right now? It's regular order that got us here. They don't want to shut down a government that is being actively dismantled in front of our eyes, in fear that would give Musk and Trump more power to do exactly what they're going to do anyway, and then to go ahead and make sure that ensure the passage of a budget resolution that is going to enshrine so much of what they've already done. I mean, that's just not complicity by silence. That's overt complicity, right? That's collaboration. Go back and listen to the whole thing. And this will tell you exactly why partisanship is not your way out. Party politics is not your way out. The Democrats are not on your side. They are not coming to help you. Whatever they're doing, if they think that there is such a thing as a return to regular order, bipartisanship, that what's going right now is a difference in political opinion. These are the decorum people, right? Now, decorum when they are firing people at will, decorum when they are ignoring court orders, decorum when they are going into private homes, removing people who are here legally for exercising their right to free speech, and they're talking about a return to regular order. There is a massive difference between opposition and resistance. And if you are not resisting, then you're complying. And Sheldon Whitehouse is complying. I knew Paul Wellstone. He'd be on the ramparts, a former college professor who ran for the Senate because he wanted to do something better for the people. And damn it, he did it. Sheldon Whitehouse, cowering. Hey, Kelly, to be totally fair to you, nothing's going to save the government that you had. And that's one of the big points. It's gone already. There's no normal to return to. If there's anything that resistance history has told us is that institutions aren't there to go ahead and save you. They're not there to challenge power. They're there to preserve it. So the problem is that once you realize that it's time to go, it's past time that you needed to go. So let's just break this down a little bit. Is that what is going to save our government? Now you have to almost oversimplify what it is that you want to save. I mean, first you got to save people. You got to really recognize what it is that these people are doing and how power expands exponentially. It will expand until it stops. It won't stop when it just suddenly is satisfied. Musk and Trump aren't going to stop. Which is why every time somebody doesn't take an opportunity to shut them down, to throw a wrench in their works, it just enables them. It emboldens them. So what can we do? I appreciate that there are those out there who say, keep calling, keep writing. There's nothing for them to do. They had their chance here. There have been things all along that they could have done. There is no reason, by the way, that all of their nominees were confirmed. There's no reason for that, other than decorum, regular order. When your country is being dismantled around you, when the other side isn't playing by the rules of decorum and you are, you're taking a paper airplane into a gunfight. The issue is that, what do you mean by saving our government? I think that there is saving our people. There is stopping them. And that's where you got to start. And then you got to figure out, well, what's next? If all of this stopped right now, would you just continue under the same exact set of institutions that got us here in the first place? That enabled somebody like Trump and this regime to get into power and to be able to exploit the weaknesses in that power, because that's what they have done. I mean, understanding what all of the weaknesses in the constitutional system that the framers created that have still around as an artifact, and then the weaknesses in the democratic structures that have been put into place after the Second World War, is that, okay, where are the weaknesses in there? How can we exploit that? Because there are plenty of them. We were just trusted never to exploit them. Well, these people are rapacious, and they're rapacious for one thing, and that's power. And power to enforce a dogma. These are no longer differences in political opinion, and people keep acting like there are. This is about principle. This isn't about policy. This isn't about what you do with Social Security. In terms of, well, I mean, do you turn it into a single payer system? Those days are gone. And it's interesting how it happened rapidly. This is not the first time in American history that it happened this way. But the last time was in the collapse of the royal government between 1773 and 1775. So it was a bit ago. So the question you ask yourself is not what is going to save our government. It's what is going to save ourselves and the things that we actually care about. And then what do we do next to create a new government that will in fact preserve those things that we care about much better than the one that is already collapsing. Good morning, folks. Your resistance history lesson for today is the hardest lesson for anyone to learn. Let's call it the Sheldon White House rule, for no particular reason, because experience is the most brutal teacher. And for many, though, it's the only one that they're going to believe. People don't want to believe that they are witnessing the slow death of a system they once thought was unshakable, or at the very least unquestionable. They want to trust that institutions will hold, opposition leaders will act, there is a hero out there, and that eventually something will reset our path and return things to normal. But resistance history shows us otherwise. And the hardest lesson of all is this: there's no normal to return to. There's only what we do next. Historians and scholars of authoritarianism, such as Abby Heffer, who you can follow in real time with her analysis of what's going on, and Tim Snyder, they explain how modern autocrats dismantle institutions, erode democracies, and seize power. But knowing how authoritarians operate is only half the equation. What do we do about it? And that's where resistance history comes in. These are the toughest lessons for people to accept. First, institutions have failed. They are done. If institutions were going to stop this, they would have already done it. Courts alone won't save democracy. Elections alone won't restore balance. Institutions are built to preserve themselves, not to challenge power. To wait for institutional intervention is to surrender just in slow motion. Resistance cannot be outsourced to political processes designed to contain, not dismantle, authoritarian rule. Second, opposition leaders who refuse to resist become complicit. Resistance isn't a speech, it's action. It's not a press conference. Opposition leaders who tell you to stay calm or trust the system rather than actively confronting authoritarianism are not fighting, they're adjusting to it. Refusal to resist isn't caution, it's collaboration. Third, this is as bad as it gets is always, always wrong. There is no stopping point where power just stops seizing control. You think Elon Musk is going to say, I've had enough. This is enough for me. The second you believe you've reached the worst point, you're already behind. Hannah Arendt warned that authoritarianism doesn't self-limit. It expands, consolidates, and then normalizes oppression until it either collapses or it's actively resisted. It demands not just your compliance, but your participation, making you an active part of your own oppression. The longer people wait, the harder resistance becomes. James Scott reminds us that power isn't absolute. It constantly struggles to maintain itself. Resistance forces it to expend resources, making oppression costly and unsustainable. We push that. We make it pricey and expensive for them to oppress, and for any of their collaborators to perform their alliance. Albert Camus teaches us that resistance is a moral necessity, not because victory is assured, but because refusing complicity is essential. Joseph Tincture and Arnold Toynbee remind us that collapse is inevitable for systems that overextend themselves. They will burn out. More surveillance, more repression, more coercion. Eventually, authoritarian power becomes unsustainable. But collapse is never on our terms unless we make it so. So what comes next? Be an optimist for your family and friends, but a pessimist in the mirror. There is no scenario where authoritarianism collapses on its own. Resistance is not just important. It's the only way power relinquishes control. There's no normal to return to, folks. There's only what we do now.